Hey, everybody, welcome. We're so glad to have you along with us today for this conversation. I'm Jahan Corbin, and this is my friend and fellow breast cancer survivor, Lynn Haddad, and we are thrilled to be the co-facilitators of this survivor story. We are with a nonprofit in Middle Tennessee that called Breast Cancer Recovery in Action. Both of us have been able to volunteer and serve on the board with Breast Cancer Recovery in Action. Acronym is BRA, so insert your supportive puns there. And we're really excited to be bringing you this story, both as survivors ourselves and just as women. We are so thrilled to hear other people's experiences and how they navigated breast cancer. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lynn to introduce today's guest speaker.
Hi. Well, thank you for joining us, Erin. We're so excited to meet you. I'm not going to give you a big introduction because we're here to talk about you, but you are the first in our Warrior Women series where we're going to be talking to different breast cancer survivors about their story and learning the amazing ways that they have dealt with facing a breast cancer diagnosis and what they've done with their life afterwards. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes. So I understand that you were diagnosed when you were pregnant with your third child. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. It was in 2017, so it's been almost 8 years now, coming up on 8 years.
Mhm.
And I was 30 years old and pregnant with my third child. No family history. It literally came completely out of the blue. I started having like a pain in my left breast that felt very similar to what I had experienced with mastitis with my first two kids. And so I had asked my midwife, like, is that a thing? Can I have mastitis while I'm pregnant? And they were like, I don't know, but your body could be, just kind of gearing up. Go ahead and treat it like you would treat mastitis, and let's give it a couple days and see what happens. And so I did warm compresses, some gentle massaging. And at that point, I started having some like bloody discharge from my nipple. And I still, at this point, again, like breast cancer was not at all on my radar. I just thought it was something that was like a weird pregnancy thing, like your body does weird and amazing things.
Right. You never know what's going to happen.
Right. So I wasn't super concerned about it, but obviously kind of followed up with my midwife, and she was like, I would really like for you to go ahead and get this further checked out. Um, so I went in for my appointment, and being pregnant, they, kind of the first line of defense would typically be a mammogram, but I was pregnant. And so they wanted to avoid that if possible. And so we did an ultrasound, and during that ultrasound, they couldn't see what they wanted to see. So we did go ahead and do a mammogram. But they ended up kind of double shielding. I wore like multiple of the lead shields. So we did that, and then they sent me back to ultrasound, and then back to mammogram for the other side, and then back to ultrasound again. And I think it was probably the third time that I was in ultrasound that I finally realized, like, oh, they must be seeing something they don't like. Like up until that point, I think I was just annoyed. I was like, what am I
Right.
doing
Right.
here?
They could
Like,
be, yeah, crazy, yeah, pregnant
yeah,
women getting all sorts of crazy stuff, but it's
right.
really stressful.
Yeah. So after that third trip to ultrasound, they pulled me back into the consultation room. And that's when they said, we are seeing this pattern of microcalcifications that are really concerning, and we'd like to go ahead and do a biopsy. And by the way, if you can stay right now, we're going to do it right now. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Let's get all of the information. My husband was with me at that appointment, but at that point he had to leave to go pick up our other kids from school. And so then I was there throughout that biopsy. So anyway, I go home. This was right before a long weekend, right before Memorial Day weekend. And they said, don't expect to hear anything back until, after the holiday. Well, that Friday afternoon at about 5:30, the number popped up on my phone, and I was like, that can't be good news if they're calling at 5:30 on a Friday afternoon before a holiday weekend. And so at that point, they confirmed that the biopsy did show ductal carcinoma in situ, DCIS. And they recommended meeting with a surgeon as soon as possible. So obviously, I kind of got sent into a tailspin at that point, kind of trying to figure out, like, okay, what are next steps? I actually, in my professional life, had previously run into somebody who did get her diagnosis of breast cancer while she was pregnant as well. And so I reached out to her immediately and was like, what do I do? Like, you're the only person I've ever heard of that this has happened to. What do I do? And so she so graciously, like, let me cry and walked me through. And she was like, here were my surgeons, here were my oncologists. Like, these are people that know what they're doing. And so that was a huge relief, might not be the right word because it was still chaos, but it was just very comforting to know that there were people who had done this before with a pregnant lady. Um,
Informed, like a little bit, right?
And
yeah,
like you weren't patient zero in this experience.
right,
Let me
exactly.
ask you this, Erin, because before you continue on with your story, I have a couple questions. How far along were you in your pregnancy?
Yeah.
So
And I'm asking that, I guess, from a standpoint of I have 3 children also, and I know that I experienced some pain in my breast just from the expansion and all the hormones and all the things that are changing there. I just wondered, I mean, you mentioned you thought it was mastitis. Like, was it like a throbbing pain, a constant pain, or what made you think it might be something different?
it was, well, I didn't really. My midwife was the one who sent me. I still was just in like pregnancy brain. Like, I really didn't think anything of it. It wasn't throbbing. It was just like a dull, achy, but there was a very specific spot that it
Okay.
was hurting
Okay.
from. Like it was like a pinpoint, like, and it radiated from that. And it
Mhm.
was tolerable. It wasn't excruciating. It was just uncomfortable and weird. I was 16 weeks when I started feeling that pain. And I was about 20 weeks when I got my diagnosis officially.
How
So
old were your 2 kids at the time?
Yeah, I was wondering that.
4 and 6.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
Okay, so you get the diagnosis on Memorial Day weekend and you
Yeah.
have this one other person that you know that you connect with. Then what happened?
So you start going through the chaos of all of the workups of all of the appointments, the consultations, meeting with the surgeon, meeting with plastic surgery for reconstruction. Um, I also had multiple, like, high risk, like, maternal and fetal medicine appointments at that point as well, so that everybody was kind of on the same page about how to best monitor and move forward and how to manage surgery while pregnant. Um, there were a lot of discussions about, like, timing of surgery, because at that point the biopsy had shown DCIS stage 0, which is believed to be non-invasive but can turn invasive at any time. And so it wasn't like a huge emergency to get surgery done right away. And so thankfully, because of that, I was able to consult with maternal and fetal medicine to kind of discuss what would be the best timing for surgery, to try to give baby the best chance in case anything happened. And so we all kind of collectively decided to wait until late in the second trimester. Once you hit third trimester, risks for going under anesthesia for baby start to increase. But obviously, the farther along, the better chance that the baby has if something did go wrong. And so we did a unilateral mastectomy when I was 28 weeks pregnant, which was in July. And they did an immediate tissue expander in place. And so we did that, and surgery went well. They came out and said, everything looked great. We'll send everything off for final pathology results. Um, when I was, I mean, those final pathology results took a while to come back. I want to say that it was like 30, I was like 34 or even maybe 35 weeks pregnant by the time we got final results back, where they actually had found 2 invasive tumors that they didn't see on imaging the first time or when I was going through my initial workup. So they found 2 invasive tumors and then a micrometastasis in my sentinel lymph node as well. And so initially the kind of plan was like, we're going to do surgery. And then after you have the baby, we'll put you on, hormone. My cancer was hormone receptor positive, ER and PR positive, HER2 negative. So the plan was to have surgery and then go on the medication. But then after we found 2 invasive tumors, there was some additional discussion. But at that point, I was kind of far enough along in my pregnancy that we couldn't have started chemo, but they also, again, didn't want to, we weren't ready to like induce so that we could do chemo. So we had a couple of weeks of discussion of back and forth of kind of the best plan moving forward. And as it turned out, there was discussion about whether or not we were going to do chemo at the end of the day. Because I was stage 1 and it was ER/PR positive, we decided that chemo was not necessary. And so I was able to just do the hormone medication. So I had the baby in October. We, throughout my whole pregnancy, did not know if it was a boy or a girl. So every time I went in for maternal and fetal medicine for follow-ups, I was like, don't tell me. We don't know. We want to be
You
super.
have to tell every single person because they will
Right.
blurt it out.
They will. So I told every time I was like, I don't want to know. We don't know. And so funny story, like that baby actually was accidentally born at home.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Goodness.
Oh, my goodness.
You were going through all the things.
Well, so I think that just my perspective on a lot of things was skewed at that time, I think. And so she came a lot faster than I thought she was going to come. And I think my pain tolerance was maybe a little higher just based on having gone through surgery pretty recently. And so anyway, she was born at home and it was a girl and everything went pretty smoothly for the chaos of an unexpected home birth.
Oh, man.
And so that was in October, and she's 7.5 now.
Oh,
So
my goodness. That's so
yay.
wonderful. And she's healthy and all was well with her.
yeah, I mean, she is the quintessential third child. She is wild and independent and fierce and all the
Love it.
things.
Good.
I love it.
Yes.
That's
Awesome.
fantastic. Well, I'm glad that part of the story ended well, but I can't imagine. I mean, we both had small children when we
Mhm.
were diagnosed, but we weren't pregnant. And
No.
I can't imagine having, I mean, what do you think? What was your experience like navigating that with your 4 and your 6-year-old?
Yeah.
I think they probably didn't really fully understand. I mean, we tried in as much of an age appropriate way to explain to them. I think probably they were more just frustrated and annoyed that I wasn't available to
Right.
take them places to do things. We were very, very fortunate to have a very wide and deep support system of people who were really able to kind of step in and do things like play dates and take them places so that they were kind of able to maintain some sense of normalcy while I was recovering from surgery and then again after having the baby a couple months later. And so it there's like never a good time to get diagnosed with cancer, but I would say like being pregnant was really not a great time because you're not only worrying about yourself and your babies, you're also worrying about growing a human.
Right.
And you're
Yeah.
trying not to let your own stress and fear and anxiety affect the child inside of you. I can only
Your
imagine.
hormones.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Right.
was an emotional roller coaster during my pregnancy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it was a really wild time. And I look back and so much of it now is kind of a blur of like
Yeah.
just
Right.
emotions and if you a lot of time I think I went into very much like a survival mode and like compartmentalizing like, okay, yes, I have all of these like anxiety and feelings and emotions, but like mom mode, I've got to figure out how we're going to get through this, how we're going to get to the other side. And so
It's kind of a coping strategy, right? And it's one that's necessary. I mean, we
yeah.
sometimes, as moms, I think we have to or whether we have to or not, we just do it. We just sort of naturally want to think about our kids' well-being first. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, and getting through the medical, right? I mean, it was a hard situation and you were trying to learn. I mean, cancer is hard enough, but cancer during pregnant,
yeah.
exponentially more difficult trying to make medical choices, I would imagine.
And such a
Yeah.
small minority of people. Did you feel, I know we talk with, in our work with Bra, we get to speak to a lot of newly diagnosed women. And I know, unfortunately, I hate to say, but in the last several years, the age of diagnosis is going down. I mean, some of that is for good reason because the imaging is getting better. And I'm thankful for that part of it. But also, I don't know why I hate to hear that the cancer's be affecting younger and younger women. But I know that we talk to people a lot of times that in their 20s and 30s that feel very isolated as young survivors because there's not that many people that have had that experience. What was your, I mean, you talked about calling that person the one other person that you knew. How was that for you even after you had the baby and while you were navigating just starting the hormones and that kind of thing?
So I'm trying to remember at which point, but somehow I got on like a group text message, and got connected with there were probably 10 or more of us on that text message of young survivors of young women who were all really under the age of 40-ish, who
Uh-huh.
were kind of going through this all within a couple year period of each other. And that group of women who were also experiencing similar things were just such an invaluable resource of just making that connection, knowing that I'm not the only one, that I'm not going through it alone, that there are, again, just a lot of resources out there and available. And so was really thankful to be able to connect with some younger people who were going through it. Interestingly enough, I mentioned I have no family history, but a month or two after my diagnosis, my grandmother went in for a mammogram, which she had not been in several years. And she actually ended up getting diagnosed with breast cancer as well. Hers was, they were able to do a lumpectomy, and but both of us had genetic testing and there was no genetic link at all. It just so happened that my story inspired her to go get checked out, which she had kind of let lapse. And so she ended up having her lumpectomy surgery about 6 weeks or a month after I had my mastectomy. And so I was able to go be with her in the hospital while she was recovering from hers as well. And so that was also just an interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. One of the bra founders actually has a similar story in that she and her mom were diagnosed within 6 weeks of each other. So they kind of went through treatment together, which is definitely unique.
Yeah.
Okay, so Erin, looking back, is there anything like if you could go back and give yourself, you said it's been 7, almost 8 years. So you've had a little bit of time, I guess, a little bit of distance from this experience. Is there any advice that you would give to your young pregnant self
Yeah.
when you were first diagnosed
Yeah.
or right afterwards? Like if there's anything that you would say to somebody else going through this or wish you had known or
Yeah.
I think for me, I was very public about my story and my journey as it was unfolding. And that I was comfortable enough to share that with people. And I know not everybody feels that way, but for me, it really opened a lot of doors for like the connection for like people want to help, people wanted to be able to support. And I am very, very thankful that we accepted that help, that we let people step in and do things for us. And so my biggest piece of advice is let people help. You don't have to do it alone, and you there are people who want to support you through it, and just to let them, as much as you're comfortable, sharing that story so that people can do that for you.
I think that is great advice. Jahan and I both help facilitate small group discussions for Broad, and we have found many people who have felt so isolated afterwards, and it was just hard for them to share with people. And it's everybody has to share to what the extent that they feel comfortable, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
But there are a lot of people who love you, and it makes them feel better. It makes you feel better when they're able to demonstrate that love, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
You know,
And most of the
it's a
time,
gift really to
it's a
let
gift.
people
I was
help
gonna
you.
say, and most of the
Yeah.
time, I feel like it's we benefit from that when we
Yeah.
share. So, um, okay, well,
All right. So, if we want to go ahead and let you share a little bit about your new business endeavor, we are going to be doing a separate Zoom to discuss that. But you've really taken a remarkable turn, I think, in your life since your cancer diagnosis. And so it would be great if you could give us a little bit of an introduction. And
Sure.
then for all of our watchers, there will be a separate banter coming up where we talk about Erin's journey with her partner in founding a new business.
So as I mentioned, there was no genetic link to my breast cancer. And it again kind of came out of the blue. And I thought that I was, one who was kind of doing all the right things. I didn't smoke, didn't drink excessively, was pretty healthy. It was like a runner, all the things. And so as I, started kind of trying to dig like, well, why did this happen? How does this happen? Um, I kind of started to discover more the link between environmental exposures and environmental toxins and breast cancer specifically. And so started to really just think through all of the products that are coming into my home, all of the things that we're using, and what kind of chemicals and what kind of toxins are in those things that may contribute to increasing your risk, or the field of epigenetics, like turning something on or off that may make you more or less likely to end up with a cancer diagnosis. But it was a big journey kind of navigate. It's so hard to figure out, like, well, what am I supposed to avoid? Why, like, this thing is on the shelf, isn't it safe for me? Like, why am I now having to like sift through all of this information? And so over a period of several years, kind of just started to slowly make swaps for products in my home, and personal care products that I know, or based on research, don't contain ingredients that do have known links to cancer. So just kind of slowly trying to decrease that load, and really wanted to find a way to help other people navigate that as well, because it's a whole journey to figure out what to avoid and what to use, and all
Yeah.
so.
well, we look forward to
Yeah.
getting deeper into that and hearing more about it, because I think it's really inspiring to take something so scary that you went through and then turn it into this, how can I not only improve my own life and the things I'm putting, in and around my body, but how can I help others who are navigating this? So I just really appreciate that about you. And um, we're really grateful for your time today. Thank
Yeah,
you.
awesome. And we look
Really.
forward to seeing you on our next banter.
That's right. Thank you, Erin. Appreciate
All
you.
right,
Uh-huh.
Erin.
Bye.